Hurricane Fifi was a devastating natural disaster that hit Central America, especially Honduras, in September 1974. It originated as a tropical wave off the coast of Africa on September 8th, slowly developing as it moved across the Atlantic Ocean. By September 14th, it had turned into a tropical depression near Haiti. Over the next few days, Fifi gained strength, eventually becoming a powerful hurricane. This storm struck several countries along its path, but Honduras experienced the worst of its destruction. When Fifi made landfall on September 18th, it brought with it massive rainfall, intense winds, and severe flooding. Honduras was unprepared for the level of devastation it caused. Entire towns and villages were swept away, and the storm's impact on the country was catastrophic. In total, Fifi claimed the lives of thousands of people and left tens of thousands homeless. It stands as one of the deadliest hurricanes in history, a tragedy that forever changed the regions it affected. Hurricane Fifi's formation began as a tropical wave that emerged off the coast of West Africa on September 8, 1974. As this system traveled across the Atlantic Ocean, conditions allowed it to gradually intensify. By September 14th, it had developed into a tropical depression near the Caribbean, just east of Haiti. Warm ocean temperatures and favorable atmospheric conditions contributed to its rapid growth, transforming it into a tropical storm within a day. By September 16th, Fifi reached hurricane strength as it moved through the Caribbean Sea. Early warnings were issued, but many of the areas in its path, especially in Central America, had limited resources for proper preparation. Fifi brought strong winds and heavy rain as it swept over the northern coast of Honduras and other neighboring countries, although it didn't directly hit larger nations like Cuba or the Dominican Republic. The storm caused flooding and minor damage in these regions. Despite its early stages being somewhat less destructive than anticipated, the true impact of Hurricane Fifi became evident as it approached Central America. The combination of its increasing strength and the region's mountainous terrain meant that the storm's rains would soon lead to catastrophic flooding. With the storm gaining momentum, people in Honduras, Guatemala, and other nearby countries began to brace for what was coming. As Hurricane Fifi made landfall in Honduras on September 18, 1974, its true devastation began to unfold. The storm slammed into the northern coast of the country, unleashing torrential rains, powerful winds, and destructive storm surges. Coastal towns and villages were the first to be hit, with homes and infrastructure completely destroyed by the hurricane's intensity. Winds reached up to 110 km/h, tearing apart buildings and uprooting trees as the storm continued inland. However, it was the catastrophic flooding that caused the most widespread damage. The mountainous terrain of Honduras and neighboring Guatemala amplified the storm's effects as the heavy rains turned rivers into torrents, triggering landslides and flash floods. Entire villages were submerged, and many people were caught off guard by the speed at which the water levels rose. Roads, bridges, and communication lines were washed away, leaving communities completely isolated. In the wake of the storm, thousands of people were left homeless, and the death toll began to rise as rescue efforts were hindered by the destruction. Rivers overflowed, and fertile farmlands were wiped out, threatening food supplies in the already impoverished region. While Honduras bore the brunt of Fifi's wrath, other Central American countries like Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Belize also suffered severe flooding and damage. In the aftermath of Hurricane Fifi, the scale of devastation became even more apparent. Entire communities were wiped out, and the death toll soared, with estimates suggesting that up to 8,000 people lost their lives. Thousands more were missing or injured, and the number of displaced families was staggering. With homes, infrastructure, and farmland destroyed, the region faced an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. Efforts to provide aid were slow and complicated by the destruction of roads and communication networks. Helicopters and boats were used to reach isolated villages, delivering food, water, and medical supplies. International aid poured in, with countries and organizations offering support in the form of financial donations, medical teams, and emergency supplies. However, the scale of the disaster overwhelmed local and international efforts as the region struggled to cope with the immediate needs of survivors. The economic impact was equally severe. Agriculture, a vital part of the economy in Honduras and neighboring countries, was decimated by the floods. Crops were washed away, livestock drowned, and entire plantations were ruined, threatening food security for months to come. The cost of rebuilding homes, roads, and other infrastructure was astronomical, setting the region back by years in terms of development. The people of Honduras and other affected areas were left to grapple with the long-term consequences of Fifi as the rebuilding process began slowly and the emotional toll of the disaster weighed heavily on the survivors. Hurricane Fifi left a profound mark on Honduras and the surrounding region, with its devastating aftermath affecting the area for years to come. The storm highlighted the vulnerabilities of countries with limited infrastructure and resources to handle such natural disasters. Though international aid played a crucial role in the initial recovery efforts, the long-term rebuilding process was slow and challenging. Many survivors were left to rebuild their lives with little support, and entire communities had to be relocated to safer areas due to the extensive damage. In the years following the hurricane, steps were taken to improve disaster preparedness in Central America. Governments in the region began to focus more on creating better warning systems, strengthening infrastructure, and developing disaster response plans to prevent such widespread devastation in the future. However, the economic and social recovery was slow, with many families continuing to feel the ripple effects of Fifi's destruction for decades. The legacy of Hurricane Fifi serves as a reminder of the power of nature and the importance of preparedness in the face of such catastrophic events. The storm's lasting impact not only reshaped the physical landscape of Honduras, but also the lives of its people, leaving behind stories of survival, loss, and resilience.